Now, we've already seen that 1974 wasn't just another year. It was prog rock's turning point. This was the year of Autobahn's synth highways, of rock bottom's heartbreaking beauty, and Gong's intergalactic weirdness. Now, if you think 1974 was just about classic rock, I've got 20 more examples suggested by you to prove us all wrong. And Kraftwerk are kicking us off, and they were pioneers of electronic music, founded by Ralf Hütter and Florian Schneider in Düsseldorf in Germany. Their fourth album, Autobahn, marked their international breakthrough, particularly with the title track, a 22-minute motorik journey. This evoked a feeling of driving on Germany's highways. It was one of the first major pop hits built largely around synthesizers and drum machines. The rest of the album contains more experimental ambient tracks. But the single edit of Autobahn became really quite a surprise hit in the UK and US charts. Now, Hawkwind were at the forefront of space rock, blending heavy psychedelia with sci-fi themes. Hall of the Mountain Grill was their fourth studio album and introduced a more polished melodic sound. The lineup included Lemmy on bass, and he added quite a gritty edge before he left to form Motorhead. Standout tracks from the album include the driving psychedelic Warlords and the cosmic instrumental Wind of Change. The album's title nods humorously to Grieg's classical piece. It remains a fan favourite and a bridge between their raw early years and later, more structured records. Now, by 1974, Bowie had retired Ziggy Stardust and turned towards a dystopian concept inspired by George Orwell's 1984. Diamond Dogs is a dark, glam rock record depicting a decaying urban future. Its mix of cabaret, proto-punk and soul foreshadowed Bowie's plastic soul era. Rebel Rebel became one of the signature anthems built on an infectious guitar riff. The title track and Sweet Thing and Candidate really show that the album at its theatrical flair. It was a real commercial success and marked the end of his glam rock period, in fairness. Robert Wyatt, formerly of Soft Machine and Matching Mold, recorded Rock Bottom, sadly after an accident had left him paralysed. The album is really deeply personal, and it blends jazz, experimental rock and surreal lyrics. Nick Mason of Pink Floyd produced it, and it features contributions from musicians like Mike Oldfield and Ivor Cutler. Tracks like Sea Song and Alifib are really haunting and emotional. It's got quite a sparse sound to it, but yet it's still intricate, full of shifting textures. It's widely regarded as a masterpiece of British progressive rock. Todd Rundgren, already known as a prolific songwriter and producer, formed Utopia as a vehicle for progressive rock experimentation in this year. In his debut album, Todd Rundgren's Utopia featured extended symphonic pieces. For example, the opening track, Utopia Theme, runs for over 14 minutes and really set quite a cosmic tone to the whole album. The record balanced virtuosic playing with Rundgren's melodic sensibility. The tracks Freak Parade and Freedom Fighters really show off the band's fusion of rock and jazz influences. The album established Utopia as a major live act with a dedicated cult following. The band Neptune are a British prog band based in Germany, and they were known for their concept albums and psychedelic visuals. Their album Down to Earth is a concept album loosely based on the circus theme. The music is lighter and more playful than some of their early cosmic exploration. Highlights include the tracks Fidgety Queen and the rousing opener Astral Man. There's mellotron textures and soaring guitar solos throughout, and all are really quite prominent. The album has become a fan favourite for its accessibility and humour. Peter Hamill now, and his album The Silent Corner and the Empty Stage. But loads of requests for this one, and with him being the frontman of Van der Graaf Generator, he was also a very prolific solo artist. This album is one of the most acclaimed, mixing introspective lyrics with some quite intense arrangements. The record features contributions from many of the VDGG members, giving a familiar but personal feel to it. Tracks like Modern and A Louse Is Not a Home really show his literary, dramatic style. Forsaken Gardens is a highlight with its haunting piano and lyrics. This album blends prog complexity with raw emotional power. Triumvirate are next, and they were a German prog trio often compared to Emerson, Lake and Palmer for their virtuosic keyboard-driven sound. The wonderfully named Illusions on a Double Dimple was their breakthrough album in this year, and it structures a two-side long suite full of dynamic tempo changes and classical flourishes. Keyboardist Jürgen Fritz dominates the Hammond organ, piano and Moog. The tracks School Days and Mr. 10% really are highlights of the conceptual first suite. The album's polish earned them really attention in both Europe and the US. Return to Forever are next with their album Where Have I Known You Before? Now, Chick Corea's jazz fusion group Return to Forever were leaders in the 1970s fusion movement. Now, Where Have I Known You Before really marked the arrival of guitarist Aldo Meola and completing that classical lineup. The record mixes fiery fusion workouts with perhaps more contemplated moments. The tracks Vulcan Worlds and Song to the Pharaoh Kings showcase quite dazzling musicianship. Corea's electric keyboards and Stanley Clarke's bass are especially prominent. It is considered one of the band's strongest releases. Now, Uriah Heep were one of the defining bands of the early 1970s, featuring hard rock and proto metal. Wonderworld was their seventh album and continued the blend of heavy riffs and fantasy-tinged lyrics. Recorded in Munich and produced by Jerry Bron, standouts include the opening track Wonderworld and the dramatic The Easy Road. The album is a slightly darker tone compared to perhaps its predecessor Sweet Freedom. And sadly it was the last to feature bassist Gary Thayne, adding some poignancy to its place in their discography. Man were a Welsh rock band known for their improvisational live shows and blend of psychedelic and country rock. The beautifully named Rhinos, Winos and Lunatics was produced by former Cream member John Pugwash Weathers. The album is a strong mix of boogie, harmony, vocals and really extended jams. The tracks Take It the Easy Way Out and 4 Day Louise are real highlights. It shows the band at a more concise and song-orientated peak. This album helped them reach a wider UK audience. You by Gong is their final part of the Radio Gnome Invisible trilogy. The band, led by David Allen, combined psychedelia, jazz and humour in a uniquely whimsical way. This album is their most cohesive, balancing those spacey jams with intricate composition. Tracks like Master Builder and A Sprinkling of Clouds really are considered classic Gong tracks. The record features virtuosic work by drummer Pierre Moulin and guitarist Steve Hillage, and it's quite often cited as their masterpiece and a cornerstone of space rock. Renaissance were a symphonic prog band fronted by the wonderful Annie Haslam's soaring 5-octave voice. Turn of the Cards leans heavily on classical influences with lush orchestration. The song Mother Russia, inspired by Solzhenitsyn, is really the dramatic centerpiece. But there's other standouts on there, including the tracks Black Flame and Running Hard. And the album is both grand and melodic, highlighting John Tout's piano and Michael Dunford's guitar. And it really solidified Renaissance's reputation in the progressive rock scene. A big favourite of mine, Premiata Fuieri Marconi, PFM for short, were one of Italy's leading progressive rock bands. And in 1974, they released the English-language version of their album, La Isla di Niente. The lyrics were adapted by Pete Sinfield of King Crimson fame. The title track and The Mounting are real highlights combining symphonic rock with Mediterranean flair. This record features complex instrumental passages and really some delicate acoustic sections. It helped PFM gain a much wider international following. Now, the band Egg were a Canterbury scene trio blending jazz, classical and rock influences. Their album The Civil Service was their final album, recorded after the band had briefly split up. It consists of intricate, mostly instrumental pieces. Songs like Germ Patrol and Enneagram really show their quirky, angular style. There are 2 humorous prelude tracks in there featuring guest vocalists. The album is admired for its sophistication and eccentricity. Griffon were known for their unique blend of medieval instrumentation and progressive rock. Their album Red Queen to Griffon 3 is a fully instrumental concept album inspired by the game of chess. The music is highly intricate. It's full of recorders, crumhorns and virtuosic playing. Each of the 4 tracks represents a different movement, and highlights include the powerful opening section and the lively finale. It's often regarded as Griffon's most definitive work. Staying with the Canterbury scene now, we've got Hatfield in the north, and these were formed by ex-members of Caravan, Matching Mole and Egg. Their self-titled 74 debut is a mix of jazz fusion, prog, and some whimsical English humour. The album flows almost like one continuous piece. Tracks like The Stubbs Effect and Son of There's No Place Like Homerton are memorable sections, with Richard Sinclair's vocals and Phil Miller's guitar providing warmth amid the complexity. It really is a cornerstone of Canterbury-style progressive rock. Caravan were also one of the key Canterbury bands, known for melodic prog with quite a jazzy touch to them. They recorded a live album in this year, and this features the band performing with an orchestra, the New Sinfonia. The set list mixed some of the older favourites with new material arranged for production with the orchestra. Highlights include the tracks For Richard and Virgin on the Ridiculous. Those orchestral arrangements really add some drama without losing the band's charm. It is regarded as one of the best examples of prog rock orchestra collaborations. We look at Henry Cow now, and they were an avant-rock collective at the heart of the rock in opposition movement. Their album Unrest is their second album and among their most challenging works. Side 1 features composed pieces like the tracks Half Asleep, Half Awake, whilst Side 2 is largely improvised. This album blends jazz, free improvisation, some modern classical elements. Songs like Bitter Storm Over Ulm is a standout for its spiky energy. It remains quite a touchstone for experimental rock fans. Now, Argent, who were led by keyboardist Rod Argent, formerly of the Zombies, were known for hits like Hold Your Head Up, but with the album Nexus, this is one of their most progressive albums that they did. The record opens up with the track The Coming of Cahotek, and it's a suite that's part instrumental and part inspired by the famous Comet. Tracks like Music from the Spheres and Love are also key highlights. The album blends the symphonic prog with some soulful rock elements. It showed Argent at their most ambitious before their breakup a year later. So there you have it, 20 more albums from this year of 1974. How many did you know? Drop your score in the comments if you will. Let's see who's the ultimate prog rock fan. Now don't forget to look out for more classical album deep dives like the one on screen now, which is part 1 of this marvellous year. Watch that one next, and I'll see you over there.